Good Monday morning. I am MPJ and you are watching FunFunFunction. Now, today is going to be a little different episode. It's going to be a Let's Code episode and it's called Let's Code an Editor. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that, hey MPJ, you've always said that you are a tooling alcoholic and that you spend too much time tinkering with your tools. Why, yes, and you are experiencing this tooling alcoholism right now firsthand in its full glory. Building an editor is probably the absolute worst kind of developer procrastination that you can possibly do. Building an editor is something that you do only for the benefit of the developer. There is absolutely zero chance that the user will say, oh, this software is really great. I bet that the developer that used it had a great editor and that's why it's so great. But you know what? It might be fun, and also if you're watching, I figure that it might be entertaining to you people. And you know, I'm just excited about it. So yeah, you know, let's code an editor. Let me show you what I've built so far, because I've been spending quite a few hours with this already. So let me do npm start. Perhaps I should increase the size of all the things here so that you see properly. This is okay, maybe? So let me run npm start. I'm using Visual Studio Code for this project. Might be interesting, we'll see. Oh my god, I built an app that says hello. It actually does a little bit more. Let me go to the namespaces. Come on, let's load. And here's the default namespace and the default playbook. What's a playbook? Oh, okay. So the playbook is where the editor is. So I have not actually built an editor. An editor is not what we're building. We are building a fiddle. You know, like it's kind of inspired by things like JSFiddle.com.
.com, is it .net? Yes. So on a JSFiddle, this is a JSFiddle. I can do help. No. Yeah. Okay. I can do and I write some stuff and I run that and then it renders that and I can do something like document query select store and I'm gonna do div and then I can do text. Block my text and I do hello. Hello and I run that. Maybe it should update that. Oh, I guess not. What is even this? I need some collaboration mode now. Is it collaboration mode? No, I have to do inner text or something, right? I should know this. Yeah, okay, yeah, that'll work. So I set it to...
So it's basically a little space on the web where you can run JavaScript code and you can send that link to other people. I often find myself using JSFiddle and other fiddles, but as you can see, like there's a lot of cruft in this interface. There's a lot of distractions, and I also don't really care for the DOM, to be honest. I don't need a DOM. I just want JavaScript generally when I do these things. Like these four things seem a little superfluous to me. Lately, I've also run across something called Jupyter. It's like a wordplay on Jupyter plus Python, I think. It's also referred to as the IPython playbook. I cannot easily show it, unfortunately, because they are generally hosted things and there are no Python playbooks available online just quickly. But it is basically this, you create segments of code and you evaluate them inline, and you get, like under each segment, it evaluates what the output is, and you can create new segments and sort of create like this story of code that executes, and you can also add blocks of markdown in between. A few weeks back I did an episode on the Eve programming language, and that is very much inspired by the IPython playbook. It's super nice when you're mangling data, because you start out with some big blob of data and then you like churn that in different ways, and at the end you render out some nice diagrams and you can like follow it in a flow, and it is a very nice way of programming, I think, at least in that specific case. So I wanted to try to make a JavaScript playbook, basically. And this is kind of what I've built so far. It has these segments. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 segments. I haven't added functionality to delete them just yet, but if I do, for instance, like 45 plus 89, and I press Command Enter, and it evaluates immediately in line. You see here? You can also select segments, and I can bring up this commander that only has one command as so far. I imagine this to be something, this is sort of like the thing that appears when you hit Command P in Atom, or Visual Studio for that matter. No, it's not Command P, it's Command Shift P, and you can type stuff like add line comment or remove trim trailing white space, for instance. I really like that idiom of commanding an editor because I cannot remember a hotkey for the life of me. So now I just have one command so far in this this editor, but I imagine that there will be many, and you can like auto-complete here or something. But if I pick the add new segment, which I do by hitting enter, a new segment will be added at the end here. And I can do new things, and it can also do, you know, it's a JavaScript. It's a JavaScript environment. So today I intend to make a little bit of progress on this project, and that progress is going to be deleting segments. Deleting segments, that's our goal for today. And by segments, I mean these things that I'm now selecting. I have the capability to select them, but not actually delete them. Before we do that though, I just want to get a little warm up and fix this fact that there is no margins here. That is annoying the hell out of me. I'm going to close this to do because there's just so many distractions in it. And I'm going to scroll to, I wonder where the margins for that is. Okay, we're going to go to playbook editor.js. So, as you see, I am using React for this project. I'm also experimenting with this Facebook type system called Flow. As you might know, I'm a person that I'm not a super big fan of types, but I like to give them a chance now and again, especially when a new type system arrives on the scene, to see how it feels. Flow has been kind of cool in this project, but in the end, I'm currently in the process of removing it because I don't feel that it actually adds more value to the project than the hassle it adds. It's close, but I just feel like it's one more tool in the project, and it's getting in my way, so we are removing it. Let me just do that now, actually, before we do anything else. I'm going to remove flow. I'm going to remove these flow type definitions. Scrolling down, do we have any more flow type definitions here? Here is one. I'm gonna remove that. All right, that's all of them. Let me commit that. Git status, git add src playbook editor.js, and git commit message removed flow from playbook editor. Doop. Hide that with Command J, one of the few hotkeys I've learned in Visual Studio, except for the Command Shift P one. Okay, back to the task at hand. We want to remove this or add a little bit of margin here to make it easier to see the segments. So this is the render function in React. If you're not familiar with React, it's oh god, I'm not gonna explain React. You have to read up on that somewhere else. But this is how it's being rendered, and render is being run on as soon as anything changes, and it just poof, renders this declaratively. So all we have to do is add some styling here, and it will be updated. Now, it looks like I have encapsulated the segment editor in a React component here. So now I'm thinking here, let me move it out of the way, thinking that maybe I should add the margin inside of the segment editor. Alternative, because I'm just mapping on segment IDs here and returning a segment editor for each ID. So anyway, I could add the margin inside of the segment editor, or I could add it, add a wrapper outside of this and add the margin. You know what? We're gonna add it inside of the segment editor. Let me go inside the segment editor and just hide the sidebar. How do I do that? I want the hotkey for hiding the sidebar. Toggle sidebar. Command B. Oh, that's nice. Command B. I might remember that hotkey. Okay, let's find the style of. So I think it's here. You might notice that I'm not using a lot of classes here. I'm just using data container and data active and data controls to identify these things. In my unit tests, these are the what I select on. We will talk about the unit tests later, but I'm using these and not CSS classes because I feel like CSS classes are for styling, and I might want to change those in the future. But like these references, data container, they are meant to be kind of like a sort of API for the tests to interact with. So I don't change, I'm very careful around changing these. And that allows me to change classes and stuff or other things kind of widely, as long as these things are still there and refer to what they say they refer to. So this will always refer to the container as far as the tests are concerned. I also use a lot of inline styles here. That's something that I'm experimenting with. Not sure how I feel about it. It's certainly a lot nicer to have just JavaScript manipulating the styles. This is very nice that it's just JavaScript and I don't have to context switch in my brain between less or Sass or anything. It's just an object that is then rendered to an inline style. It's very easy to reason about, and it's very easy to compose styles as well. I could just, if I wanted to, for instance, you might, you see here, like this is a variable and I'm reusing it between these styles, and here I'm adding them together. It's just very nice. But a backside of using inline styles is that you, if I'm inspecting this, and you see here that here's the inline styles, and this is cool and all, but if this element had a CSS class, I would be able to like identify it very quickly. I could see that, hey, this is the container. So the data container attribute also serves that purpose, to allow me to quickly see what the hell this element is without like looking carefully at the styling and inferring it from that. Anyway, that's a side note. Let me close that and let me add the fucking margin. Margin bottom. Bottom. My god, I can't type. Kids, if you can type, don't let that stop you from becoming a programmer. I didn't. I can't type for shit. And look where I am, making videos on the internet. Let's do 20 pixels. Yeah. It's gotta be a string, or React will be angry. See, it reloads. True. Oh, that looks nice. Spacious and like all that room. I think that I am content with 20 pixels. Let's commit that. Command J to bring up the built-in terminal, and I do git status. The segment editor has been modified, and I do git add src segment editor.js. Git commit. Added a little bit of margin on segment container. Bonk. Ah! Got commit. No, that does not exist. That is true. Let me change to git commit. Fixing the margin, that was a good warm-up, but we're not here for fixing margins, we're here to delete. This is actually pretty good for maintaining focus, writing a note down. Normally I just do a little post-it at work just to keep myself focused on the task at hand. But I should probably do this at work as well, like do a huge ass note and just so that you don't get distracted and start refactoring things. Refactoring is important, but it is also a very good way of procrastinating. So I tend to segment my work and try to do a little bit of progress and then reward myself with refactoring, because refactoring is fun. That is why you do it, to procrastinate. That and the fact that refactoring is something that I guess it's easy to control. It feels like, oh, I'm doing this for only me, and I'm controlling the universe exactly like I want it. It's not like when you're solving a bug, it's usually the universe just it's not working, and you are just trying to struggling to find out what it is that is going wrong, and it's just in your way. While a refactoring is a lot more pleasurable because it's just you doing what you want, basically, with the code. We might do that later a bit, we'll see. Anyway, commands. So let's first add a command. So commands are currently added here. I'm going to explain how commands work in just a little bit, but let's just first add one to get going. Topic is going to be a string. So these are strings. Actually, it's just constants, but for now I'm just gonna do something. And then we're going to give it a label. Delete selected segment. And it's going to be a description. Deletes the segment that you... Okay, does that work? Let me hit escape and bring up the commander. And it does now actually have a segment in the commander. And there's a little bit of graphical bug here, which we have to fix later once we have it working. It's always very important to focus on getting a thing working before you start tweaking it. If you don't, you might end up wasting a lot of time tweaking something that might not even be... you might find out that it's useless to do it in the first place, or you might find out that it's not possible to do at all. Or you might find out that you're doing it completely different and your styling efforts were, you know, just in vain. So like defer tweaking until it actually works, the entire chain. Okay, so I press enter here to do the command. Yeah, okay, that doesn't work, which I guess is expected, but we're not quite sure why it doesn't work. Let's look in the console. Okay, so I have some error messages that are really ugly at the moment because they are adapted to the node test environment where I mostly run these things. At some later point, I'm going to make these prettier for running in the browser, but for now I'm just gonna let them be. So you see these things, these are actually CLI coloring things. So when I run these in the node test environment, these will make these things be colors. That is what you're seeing. Anyway, so it says that could not find responder for message. So that's this one. And you're just wondering, what the hell does this even mean? Responder for a message? Okay. And create effect bus? What is that? So the way I've set up this system is that everyone communicates through an effect bus. And effects are very much like, if you've used Redux, it's extremely similar to actions and action creators, really. You might ask, why aren't you using Redux? And I just felt like for this project I like Redux, but for this project I wanted to see if I could improve on the concept a little and do something a little bit simpler, because Redux, while at its core is very simple, the whole way you use Redux, the community, is very, plugins and meta-programming, and there are some things with it that I feel like, I could improve on this, so I've written my own little dispatcher for this project. So that is what these topics refer to. These are effect topics, which are just strings. I'm going to add, create a new command topic first. Let's do that. I'm going to navigate to the file topics.js in the commands, and it just looks like this. It's just a constant, so I'm going to copy that and change add segment to delete segment and close that. And now I will do this, so I do commands dot delete segment. Don't worry if you're not completely following along, it's because that would be impossible. You're watching somebody else program. Just go with the flow. I get some React warning about missing a key prop. I don't know where that would be. Let's you know what, I'm gonna disregard that for now. It's just a warning, it's not gonna impact us. Let me close that, and I'm going to bring up the commander and delete selected segment, and I bet, oh sorry, I've added an S here, so delete segment. So let me bring up the commander here, escape, and go to delete selected segment and enter, and we'll see that we get a responder not found error, and could not find responder for message delete segment. Yeah, we don't have a responder for it yet. I'm going to add a responder to this this thing. And we do that by going into the commands, and then we have an install file. And here I will go reply to commands dot delete segment, and it's supposed to be, these commands is going to get an active segment ID that is always going to be a string. So that is what the message has to match to be sent to this this handler, so to speak. And it takes a function as well, which will take a message. And again, this message contains an active segment ID. And plof. What do we don't want to do with that? We want to delete the segment. I'm using Firebase for this. And the way we interact with Firebase is by sending another effect to Firebase. And then the Firebase effect handlers will deal with that. So I'm going to do a send, and it's going to be Firebase dot. We don't have a delete effect in Firebase. We have not implemented that yet. Do we need that? Or can we just set it to null? Let me Google a bit. Firebase docs. API reference. Delete. Firebase setting to null versus deleting. Is from Firebase. Okay, setting a locations value to null essentially removes the node from the structure. Okay, but you know what? Then we'll do that. Because that will hopefully save us from implementing another thing on our Firebase module, which is nice. It keeps our API a lot simpler and our code easier to read because there's not so much stuff. Either way, so Firebase set, it happens to take a, you know what, let us see what that takes. I'm going to go to install.js because that is how they are defined, and because they are being installed on the effect bus, so to speak, these effect handlers. And I'm going to go to effects.firebase and see what how they look like. You see here are the replies, start sign out, Firebase sign out, we're not looking for that. Okay, reply Firebase set. It takes a path, which is a string, and it also wants a value, which can be anything. Let's go back. We want to give this a path. So the way Firebase stores things is in this tree structure. So segments, or let me show you how they store actually. Firebase. So this is the way it looks. So here are the namespaces, here are the playbooks, here are the segments. So segments are basically just this tree of stuff that contains a body, and it contains a reference to the playbook. This is just a string to the playbook ID, so it refers to this one here. And it also stores, caches the result so that it doesn't have to reevaluate it all the time. So this is the tree node that we want to delete. So what we do is that we just go path segments floop, and the pass that active segment ID, and then the value should be null. Let's see if this does what we expect it to. So I'm in the playbook and we're looking at, we have this segment selected. I bring up the commander, select delete segment, select the segment, and I press enter, and it didn't work. We get some, cannot read property body of null. What does this even mean? Interesting. Let's see. I'm gonna check the Firebase console. Was this deleted? I think it actually was deleted, right? There's actually 2 deletions that we need to make because the way Firebase functions is that everything is a tree, right? So when you access a tree node, everything under that tree node is loaded. And that is also the way the access model works. So if you grant access to a tree node, you also grant access to all the leaf nodes under that node. And because of this, you don't structure this as a big tree where like there's users at the top, and then those users own namespaces, and those users own playbooks, and those playbooks own segments, because it would just cause you to load a lot of things, and it would make it really hard for you to control the access model. So this is the Firebase way of structuring data. A cumbersome part of that is that you have to have these two-way relationships. So if you see here on playbooks, the playbook also has a segments tree, or segments node, which contains these references. So I believe that this is the one that we deleted, and so it still has a reference to the tree element, and that is why we're getting that body null error, because it's trying to load it, but there's no body for it to load. So I'm just gonna delete this manually here and see if that resolves the error for us. Let me refresh. See, yeah, now it's gone. What we need to do is that we need to set that thing to null as well, and I'm going to send firebase.set woof, and it's going to set the path, and we're going to do playbook dot. Okay, we don't have this yet, not that we need the playbook ID. Playbook ID, or key as they are called in Firebase. I don't know if we should, like, I call some things key and some things ID in this thing, and I should probably be more consistent, but at the moment sometimes ID, sometimes key, and we want to set that to segments, and we want to set the active segment ID to just be value null. Also, I want to, this should be one of those doc strings or whatever it's called. See here, like, we don't have playbook ID yet. So how do we get that? Well, we need to actually do a Firebase, send a Firebase get. And we are going to, it needs to have a path. And that is going to be a path. Playbooks. No, sorry. Segments. And dot active segment ID. Now we are doing some asynchronous stuff here. I'm going to use the fancy async await that exists in in the new JavaScript thing, the new async await, because send this returns a promise that resolves into the whatever value is at this path in Firebase, and I do a wait so that it resolves into a promise, and then we will have this segment data. Oh, there's errors all over happening here because we're right in the middle of chaos. If we go back to Firebase and we check, by the way, if you're wondering why it's called Bloomfield, that is just because that's the way I pick code names for my projects before I have a good name for them, so that I don't get stuck on naming them. So I just go to the list of all the code names that Intel has ever used for a processor, and I just pick one at random from that list, and it ended up being Bloomfield this time. That's why it's called Bloomfield. And anyway, let's scroll down to a segment, and you see here at segment it refers to playbook by its ID here. So we want to do const playbook ID. That's going to be segment data dot playbook. Okay, that looks good. Actually, I also want to await this to resolve, this delete to resolve first before we go and delete the actual segment, so that we would delete this reference to the segments before we delete the actual segment in the segments tree. All right, let's see how this looks. I am about to get deleted. And I open the command and I select deleted segment and I press enter and it is deleted. Now we just need to write some unit tests for this and we're done. But before I do that, I'm going to recommend you a board game. Allow me to introduce to you Sushi Go. So it's not technically a board game, it is a card game with super adorable sushi. It's extremely fast to play and learn. It doesn't have a ton of depth, but it's one of those games that everybody can enjoy. It doesn't require reading much, so children can play it. Sushi Go is a great game that you can play with a family that isn't really all that into board games, but will still enjoy themselves a lot. Or to play with experienced board game gamers, like as a kind of warm-up before you get into like the main game, or perhaps at the end of game night, like we did yesterday when everybody was too drunk and tired to keep playing the other games that we were playing. So, Sushi Go, I recommend it highly. Sushi Go is not a sponsor of this show or anything. I just like board games and I like Sushi Go. But if you like board games and you would like to support FunFunFunction, there is an Amazon affiliate link in the episode description that you can use to buy your very own Sushi Go. Board game shout out complete. Back to code. Alright, the first thing that we want to do is write a test for this thing. We do that in the install.test file for, install.js. we go to install effects commands, this file, install test.js. The tests, by the way, are written in Jest because they come with the Create React app that I'm still using for this project. I'm like really forcing myself not to use eject because I really want to piggyback on the power of using the same goddamn thing that everybody else uses. So we are going to describe delete segment and get bus. Okay, so describe common is it generates a just describe statement with some setup. Mainly, it creates a effect bus for us. You know, the effect bus that dispatches everything. And because the main purpose of having an effect bus in the first place is to allow ourselves to intercept the messages back and forth instead of calling things directly, because this allows us to not have to mock anything in when testing, which is super nice. And I'm going to show you how easy this is to deal with. So first of all, we are going to take our code and we're going to install. So install comes from the install file that we were inside before, where we added this this reply and Firebase set and gets. You can see here from the green line that this is added but not yet committed in Git, and this is the file we're testing. And it takes a bus because it needs to install itself on a bus. Some kind of parsing error, yeah, because before each needs to take a function. And we know that this is correct, so we're gonna. This is the end result that we want. We want it to set the segment to null at the end, and let me just deletes the segment in Firebase, and this is going to now we're gonna call a function on get bus, and this is one of the main reasons, one of the main improvements that I wanted to make on top of the dispatch in Redux, because I feel like for me the most important thing with everything is making it easy to write unit tests. So I want helpers that make it a lot easier for me to do that. So this get bus has an assert message. This will probably be renamed assert send in the future, but for now it's called assert message. And what it does is that it takes an object that says topic, and that's going to be Firebase set. I'm going to make assert message look a little bit more like send later, and it takes these objects. It's going to be path here. So like this. Oh yeah, so there's an active segment ID. I'm just gonna create some kind of sample data here with some segment ID that we're gonna use for testing, or fake with some segment ID. So we need to fake some input here, right? That should lead to this being set to null. And okay, so we want to send this fake message after after we've installed. So let me, I'm just gonna copy that, and so after the installation, we want to get the bus, and we want to send this thing, right? And the active segment ID should be some segment ID. This seems like a case, so let's create a case. describe, woo, I had some kind of snippet there, I think. That was Visual Studio Code magic. But either way, when delete segment command is sent, and I'm gonna move this to here, and I'm gonna move this it statement inside of the describe case. I want to call it when, perhaps given. Delete that. So given that the delete command is sent, and we send the delete command here with the where the active segment ID is some segment ID. So this is basically what the commander will send, and we're recreating that here because this is a unit test. We are interested in testing only the remove segment code. So we're not testing the entire thing. We're testing, given that the commander sends the right thing, the add removes delete segment code should do the right thing. But this code is not actually testing that the commander does the right thing. We're gonna write a test for that later. But given that, it should delete the segment in in Firebase. And so we assert that after that has happened, it will delete this segment here. And active segment ID that does not exist in this context, that is this is some segment ID, because we're setting it here, and given that, it should delete that same thing. Let's run the tests. npm test. Raining. Okay, it's failing. Okay, it fails. Expected to see effect on topic, Firebase set matching. So this is the error message passed from the assert message, and this is what I want. I want these things that tell me exactly what is wrong and gives me hints to what might be the error. So it says that, okay, I wanted to see a Firebase set on this these topics here, but I'm not seeing that. And here are some untriggered responders that might help you out. And okay, so there actually is a responder to add segment that is not. That makes sense. The install function here is adding a add segment responder, which we're not using because we are interested in only in delete segment. There are tests down here for the add segment that does that. So unfortunately, this doesn't help us much, but we know that, okay, Firebase is not set. Let's go into install and have a look. So the first thing is that we are waiting for a delete segment to be sent. And we actually know by scrolling down, by scrolling here, that there is no untriggered responder for these things. So this has probably been triggered. What happens then is that we take the segment active segment ID that we get and send that to Firebase to get that from the database so that we can extract the playbook ID later here. So we need to fake this call. I'm gonna copy paste that, and I'm going to just expand this for now. I'm going to take get bus dot reply to Firebase dot get and when we get that, sorry, when I get that, going to return a promise that resolves to something. Let's go back to installer.js. What do we want? Oh, we want something that resolves to an object with a playbook property. So we have to make some playbook property up, const some playbook ID, and it will resolve to playbook. Some playbook ID. I'm not closing this properly. I need to put that up there. What is happening here? Oh, I'm not closing the reply properly there. Okay. I really like this, by the way, with create React app, that it's constantly rerunning my test as soon as I save, and it gives me this very fast, immediate feedback loop. It's really, really nice. Okay, I have some syntax errors. There we go. And our tests are green, which means that we are now actually, it seems like it's actually verifying that it deletes the segment in the database. A good way when unit testing like this, because you notice that like, I'm not quite doing test first, but I'm doing test-driven development. So I do like a little bit of progress and then verify that it works in real life. And then I stop and I write some tests to verify that the code that I wrote keeps working in the future. I think that this is the nicest way of doing TDD because it's a kind of intuitive way of dealing with them, but it has the disadvantage that you might write the wrong tests. So it's always good to intentionally break your tests once they try to break your tests once they go green. Let me do that. I'm going to go to install and I'm gonna do a typo here and I got segments. See, this should fail now. Yes, it does. Cool. And I'm just going to go back to the correct implementation. And just good. We have a test that verifies that this happens. This is kind of surprising to me because I figured that this would actually not be executed because I don't expect this to ever return because we have nothing waiting for this specific Firebase set. Perhaps if I just do a waits like this, it doesn't really matter. So perhaps if I have to assign it to a variable for it to do anything, let's call it fish for this timeout. No, very peculiar. Perhaps I've set up a reply for this and don't realize it. Oh no, I know what's wrong. Well, I have this feature on the bus that I'm going to remove for this specific reason. It's confusing. By default, the bus, whenever something is called that it doesn't have a handler for, when you're running in a test, it just returns a promise that will never resolve, or resolves into null, rather, sorry. So I have this feature that changes that default to not do that. I will change that default later, but it means going through the app and fixing a lot of things later. So future refactoring. Bam. Okay, now it fails like I expected it to. All right, expected to see an effect on topic Firebase set. All right, it's not seeing the effect that we want. However, it's listing here some effects that actually happened. This is another reason why I like this. I want to have this guiding error for me. So it's showing that, okay, this effect happened, but there was no responder for it. So we need to go and grab this as well and handle that in our test setup. So get bus, and I want to reply to that, and I'm gonna paste that in. Oh, this is so annoying, these flow tries to be helpful, but it's really just in the way. All right, so this is what we want. It's going to respond with nothing really. It's just, or it does respond with some kind of promise, but we don't really care about the response, what that returns. So let me just do promise dot resolve and whatever, just resolve to null, because you know this thing here, we just want to wait for that to complete and then proceed. And these things don't exist in our test, but it's just these sample values that we're using. It's going to be some playbook ID and some segment ID. Kerplow, we get some warning. Oh yeah, we get a warning because we don't have a responder for this final set here. We are, after the fact, verifying that it was called, but when it actually is called, it will deliver an error because it can't find a responder. So we're just gonna do a catch all responder. No, that won't work because we don't want all of them. I'm just getting a Firebase set, and we expect something on this path. And okay, it's gonna give me an error here, probably because, yeah, this is gonna give me an error because I forgot the last parameter to respond. Must be a function. I've renamed this, but I forgot to rename the I've renamed this, but I've from respond to reply, but I've forgotten to rename the error messages. So I'm going to add a callback here. Here we really don't care what it returns, so it's just going to be an empty responder function. Cool, it's passing. Cool, let's try to break this a little bit somewhere. Let's try to add a typo here. Boom, 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 it breaks, good. Let's try to add a typo here. See if that breaks. Yes, it does. Try to add a typo here. See if that breaks. Yes, it does. Good. This is, by the way, a really handy method when you are reviewing code and you suspect that the tests that somebody has written are not probably not testing anything. You can just start adding random typos to the code and see if the tests break, and if they don't, the tests need improvement. Let's go to the playbook editor. We don't have to add much tests here because the whole thing of taking the commander dispatching these commands and welding on the active segment ID, that is already code that is under test by commands. That is code we've written for add segment, so it would just be superfluous to write that for delete segment as well. We don't want a bunch of unnecessary tests in our code. That's just crap to maintain. We want tests that are valuable. But what we do want to make sure is that playbook editor here has actually passed the delete segment to the commander, that this is passed. So let's go to playbook editor tests. Bonk, opening those tests. Let's scroll to find somewhere to add that. Okay, we have a case here for showing hiding commander. It's a bit borderline to add here because this is actually concerned with this blurring thing that is going on here, but we can squeeze it in here. Like, we don't have to be the most disciplined people in the world. Passes on Yeah. Or you know what? I'm gonna make a new describe case for it because it's so easy. I just copy paste this here and I'm going to assigns or passes delete segment command to commander. I'm using Enzyme here, and the way Enzyme works is like, let me copy paste another test statement here. Okay, this is long. So you do these, the wrapper is the thing that Enzyme has rendered to. So I'm gonna just show you how render and start works. Render and start somewhere here. It's just a simple helper function. So you do this shallow rendering of React components. So it just renders one level, doesn't render any subcomponents. And this is basically just the way you render a normal React component, except that you get this fake tree that you can do a ton of operations and checks on. It's really handy. So it actually does the React rendering, but you can inspect it in a lot of ways, and you don't have to deal with it being a real browser and stuff. It's just like Phantom.js that is a pain in the ass. This is really nice to work with. Either way, so this wrapper object, that's our DOM, so to speak. Let me go back down. And so wrapper find, we want to get the commander's props, well, there, and we don't care about the style in this test. We want to check that the commands and the second command, this is probably gonna break later, but that's okay because it's tests, and when tests break, we can just fix them. That thing has a topic. Oh, hang on. All right, so the topic of the second command sent to props, we expect that to be commands dot delete segment. Okay, I have not imported commands here yet, so I need to do that. Oh, that means I haven't written tests for passing this sort of thing in. Ah, naughty, naughty. So let me oh, this is how I do it with Firebase. So let me import commands, effect top. Oh, sorry, commands. Command. I spelled that wrong. Commands from commands topics. Let me go back down. Cool. So now the test is passing. We don't need these curly brackets. Okay, it's passing. Let's break it to make sure that I'm just gonna pass another string here. This should not break. Yes, it does. Good. Going back. Might as well add a test for the add segment while I'm at it. Add segment command to commander, and that's the add segment. Oh yeah, that's the wrong one. It's the first segment that should. Yeah, all right. Then it's green. We have now written tests for our entire change, and we can commit it. Let's do that. Git status. See what we have here. Whoops, a lot of changes. Git. There's some unrelated stuff that I don't want to commit. So git add src playbook editor. Can I do that? Yes, I could. Oh, awesome. So I add git src commands install star, whoops, no, sorry, guitar star C effects commands install star, and commands topics, and we also changed Firebase install. What did we? Git diff oh my god, what is all of this? Git status, git, how do I diff just one? Can I do git diff src effects Firebase installer.js? Oh, cool. All right, I just removed some trailing white space. We don't have to commit that. Git status. Right. I think that is everything that we wanted to we've added everything that we wanted to commit to staging. So I just do git commit m added support for removing segments. Git push. Done! We have completed and tested and committed our goal, deleting segments. Boom! If you're new to this channel, you have just watched an episode of FunFunFunction. This is a weekly programming show and I release new episodes every Monday morning 0800 GMT time. This was a Let's Code long form episode, but I also do musings, where I talk about architecture and working in teams and stuff like that, more softer things. You can find a playlist of those here. I am MPJ. Until next Monday morning, stay curious.